Good evening everyone. Welcome to Sociology Analytica. This is Pooja, Prasanna, your Sociology faculty. So today I'm going to take up a new topic, that is tribes. So in tribes I'll be discussing two questions. So the first question is, tribes in India are heterogeneous entity which cannot be clubbed under a single definition. Elaborate this statement with examples. It's a 20-marker question. That means you have to write 250 words. Okay. So in the question they are telling that tribes are heterogeneous. They are not homogeneous like we see other sections of people like caste in India. Caste are, to a greater extent, we can define what is varna, that is 4 varna and 1 avarna is there. So in that varna there is subcaste, and then caste is there, under that subcaste is there, etc, etc. So we can also tell about the purity and pollution and endogamy, etc, etc. So basically we can clearly define what caste are. In fact, most of sociologists have attempted to define what caste is. But then no one, not just sociologists, even anthropologists also have not able to define who tribes are. Okay, why? Because tribes to a greater extent, so they are defined based on different characteristics. So there is no one single definition of tribes. Okay, so in the question itself they have given that tribes are not homogeneous, they are heterogeneous entity and they cannot be defined in one single entity. Okay, so they have given already, so you have to elaborate this with the example. They have given elaborate. They're not asking you, is it true, do you believe tribes have a heterogeneous entity or not. They're not asking you to analyze. They're just telling you that they are already heterogeneous. You just have to elaborate this statement with examples. Okay, so what you can do is you can start with the British anthropologist view. You can just you can start your answer from anyone. It really doesn't matter from where you're starting. Okay, so here I've started with British anthropologists because they are the first one to actually study about Indian tribes. So for them, the tribes and castes are binary, or they are binary. That is, they cannot come under one fold. They are mutually opposite also. So whosoever belongs to caste fold, they'll not belong to tribal fold, or whosoever belongs to tribal fold will not belong to the caste fold. So they believe that they are completely mutually opposite. And who are tribes? Tribes are the one who actually lives in forest, and they have a very primitive occupation. What is their occupation? Mostly it is hunting and gathering. Okay, hunting and gathering is their type of mode of occupation. This is how they simply define. And subsequently, what you can also do is, you can just write down few names of either socio-anthropologists or as well as anthropologists. Here what I have taken is one example of anthropologist, that is, Hutton. Hutton calls, he's an anthropologist, he calls the tribes as aborigine, and Elvin, not Edwin, sorry, Elvin, Verrier Elvin calls them as aboriginals. You can just give them the name how different people calls them. And I'm coming to sociologists, that is S.C. Roy. S.C. Roy calls the tribes as what? He calls tribes as Jana, and he calls the caste people as Jati people, not Jatin, sorry, they call them as Jati people. And Andre Patel says, the tribes are divided. The tribes are divided, or they are defined on the basis of their language, religion and degree of isolation. How much they are isolated, whether they are coming into the mainstream or whether they are isolated. So based on that, so different tribes are actually being defined. And we must be knowing Gure calls tribes as backward Hindus. Why? Because he believes that the tribes are to a greater extent they're Hindus, and based on isolation, based on assimilation, he further divides tribes as Hinduized tribe, partially Hinduized tribe, and then hill section. Okay, so this is you can put anyone, you can put actually any name here. You can put Srinivas name, whosoever has talked about tribes, you can put those name. There's no restriction that you have to put only these names. Okay, why? Because in sociology most of the answers, without the thinker's name, answers will not be complete. So that is why you have to put the names. Now coming to the part, that is, they cannot be clubbed in one definition. They are heterogeneous, so they cannot be clubbed in one definition. So for that, what you can do is, you can talk about how tribes are divided, how tribes are classified on the basis of different traits. Okay, one after other traits you can actually talk about. First, I have discussed the certain permanent traits. Here again, discuss the concept and what is it, and then if possible, give one or two examples also. So for example, there are certain permanent traits. On the basis of permanent traits, like region, some people will be in certain regions only, or on the basis of language. Okay, on the basis of physical characteristic, that is on the basis of their racial feature. Okay, on the basis of racial features, or ecological habitat, where they are living, whether they are living in the desert area, whether they are living in the hilly region, whether they are living in Himalayas, where they are living. So based on that, whether they are living in island, etc., etc. So based on that, so tribes are actually divided. Here again, you can give some examples. That is, for example, Rajasthani tribes who live in desert, some tribes living in island, that is Jarawas, Central Indians, etc., etc., who lives in island. So like that, or in the tribes living in hilly region, for example, northeastern tribes, Khasi, Garo, Jaintia, etc. So you can just give the example for each. Just don't write too many examples. One examples or two examples is more than sufficient. Moving on, acquired trait are the trait which they acquire with their time. Okay, that is mode of living, how they are living. Okay, what is their mode of production. So whether they are still in hunting gathering, whether they are taken up agriculture, or some tribes have become completely mainstream. They take up mainstream jobs, they take up government jobs, they take up, they get education. So based on that also, you can define the tribes. And extent of incorporation into Hindu society. So who actually talks about this? It is Gure who talks about this. So based on the incorporation or assimilation into Hindu society, tribes are also further divided as Hinduized tribe, partially Hinduized tribe, and then hill section. Okay. Next is on the basis of linguistic classification. So whether they are Dravidian or they have Austic or Tibeto-Chinese, etc., etc. So based on this, so tribes are again divided. Again, for everything, just give one example. Austic is basically the Chhattisgarh part, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand region tribes. Dravidian is all the South Indian tribes, and Tibeto-Chinese is any of the tribes you can give from the northeastern state. Okay, like this based on the language. Next, on the basis of race. So racial classification is also there, which is given by Herbert Risley. Herbert Risley is a socio-anthropologist. He has given 7 racial groups in India. Okay, this is specifically in India. He has divided the tribes into 7 different racial groups. Not just tribes, he has divided the whole of Indian into 7 different racial groups, and it also includes the tribes. Okay. Next is geographical classification, that is Western India, Eastern India, North India, and South India. So based on, and Central India. So based on this, so different tribes are also classified. You can give some examples. See, here I'm not mentioning the examples, because if I mention, what happens is students tend to write only that, or students try to remember only that. What I want you to do is, so based on this, think of your own example. Okay, think of your own. I'm just giving you an example, like, okay, South Indian tribe, so any tribe, whatever the tribe you want to write, you can just write. Okay. A North Indian tribe, or Central India, East India, West India, Northeastern India, whichever tribe you can remember, please write down your own example. I don't want to push you with the example, because I want to actually think with an example. Fine. Next is based on the economic, that is, some people, economic or mode of production, whether they are fishermen, whether they are cultivation, or whether they are going for shifting cultivation or permanent agriculture, or whether they have come to the full mainstream or not. Okay. And next, on the basis of cultural contact. So again, Verrier Elvin. So Verrier Elvin, he says, he actually divides the tribes into 4 different groups based on the acculturation. So according to him, based on acculturation, so the tribes are divided into 4 different categories. Even based on cultural contact also. Even Gure also talks about cultural contact on the basis of assimilation. On the basis of assimilation, tribes are also again further divided into 3. So Gure talks about 3 classification, and Verrier Elvin talks about 4 classification. Next, some tribes are extremely underdeveloped, and some tribes are actually, to a greater extent, they are developed. Underdeveloped, like this Jarawa tribe, that is Andaman Nicobar tribes, to a greater extent they are completely underdeveloped tribe. Whereas certain tribes are they are absolutely developed, that is they are into mainstream, so they are getting government jobs, they are getting education, they are almost in every other field. So here example you can write is Minas. So Minas is one tribe which is like they are highly developed as compared to the other tribes. Okay. Next is religion. So some tribes they solely go for animistic religion, that is totemism, their own religion. But then some tribes, along with their animistic religion, they may also go, they might have also been converted to other fold, like they might have converted to Hindu fold or Christian fold, Islamic fold, Buddhist fold, or Jainism fold, any other religious fold, mainstream religion fold, they would have converted. Some tribes are there where they have given up on their animistic religion, and they solely just go for that particular converted religion. So there are there can be any this, like animistic solely, or sometimes animistic along with converted religion. Some tribes, they completely only follow converted religion. Okay, just give examples for all of them. Then finally, on the basis of language, so some of them have their own tribal dialect. They will be having own dialect, tribal language. See, more or less every tribe will be having their own tribal language. So some, again, just like this animism, religion, same here. So they'll have their tribal, that is language dialect, or they'll have their own language. Sometimes along with their language, they'll go to the mainstream language. Some tribes, they'll only, sometimes would have given up on their mainstream, the tribal dialect, and they may just go to the mainstream language. Okay. So these are some of the different characteristics or different traits. On this basis, we can say that tribes are not homogeneous entity the way other sections are, the way scheduled castes are. Okay, the way other, any other sections are. So tribes are, or any other religious section. So tribes are not like that. Tribes are heterogeneous. Why? Because we have explained through different points that how they are heterogeneous. Okay. So this is it about this particular question. The only thing is you have to write some. So these are 20 marker questions, so I have enough space. Here it may look like, I have given less points. So technically it's not less points, because for every of this point you have to write one line explanation. Okay, one line explanation, and along with that explanation you also have to give examples to those explanations. So almost it will fill up your 4 sides of the answers. Okay. If you have any doubt, please drop your queries in the comment section. And also, I'm really sorry there is a little bit delay in uploading the video. The reason for that is because I'm not feeling so well in the past 1 week, so there's little bit lag in the videos. It will actually come back to normalcy. Anyway, I'll see you all tomorrow with one more tribal question. Thank you so much.